If you clicked on this video because you're interested in what happens when you mix water and flour in a jar and treat it like your newborn child for 1 week, you clicked on the right video. Today I'm going to be making sourdough and you're coming along with me. Alright, so I'm absurdly tired. I don't really feel like making video, but I tell you what, there's one thing I know for sure that is not tired and does feel like making a video, and that's my sourdough starter. And as you can see, it has been exploding. A little too much. So today we're gonna make a dough. I have literally zero experience with sourdough. I presume it acts similar to yeast, just with like a few different ratios and things. I haven't really looked that far into it, to be completely honest. I made the starter and I literally just looked at a recipe before I started this video. However, I know we're gonna need a bowl. We're gonna need my starter. We're gonna need a little bit of flour, some measuring cups, and some water. Although I think it called for filtered water. I don't know if it makes a difference or not. Oh, I know, I forgot one thing. See, now I'm a professional. All right, so we're gonna start with our water. We're gonna need roughly 2 cups of water. It says 1 7/8 of a cup, but as we all know, the wetter the better. 2 teaspoons of salt, or 12 grams, 4 grams, 8 grams, 12 grams. And then we want our 90 grams of starter. Like, I think you can see on the side here, look how fucking crusty that has gotten. That is atrocious. Boom, perfect. 90 grams on the money. Now what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to whisk that nice and good until it's all cloudy. Anyway, we want 520 grams of flour. But what I'm gonna do is I'll only do half of that first. And then I'll grab myself my dough whisk, which is over here. And I'm just gonna mix it up. You know, I wanna start mixing it before I put everything in there, just make it a little bit easier. I highly recommend getting one of these whisks. It makes life so much easier with bread. There's less sort of drag, I guess. Is that the right word? Okay, we got 400 grams, 520, done. Alright, so we're gonna add a little bit extra flour because we did go quite a bit overboard, I think, with the water. Oh Lord, my arm. There's one thing I've already learned so far in my bread making journey is that higher hydration means better bread. It won't rise quite as much, but it certainly will be more, I don't know, holy. The crumb will be more open and it'll be more moist. Alright, I don't know if this is too high of a hydration or if I did something wrong, but it seems very wet. I don't know if it shows very well in the camera, but it is very wet. So I mean, at this point, I'll let it sit with a probably just cling wrap. You can use a damp towel as well. In about 20 minutes-ish, I'll come and I'll do a stretch and fold, which you'll see what that is in 20 minutes. So after, it was probably a little bit longer than 15 minutes. It was probably closer to 25. The recipe recommends that you grab yourself like a bowl of water so you can keep wetting your hands while you do the stretch and fold, which is like so. I'm pretty much just stretching and folding. Stretching and folding, and you just repeat this like 1,000 times until you end up in your grave. And then once you're done, your wet towel back on top and leave it for another 20 minutes. Alright, so I thought while our dough is doing its magic work, we'd clean up our jar, and I think I'm gonna give some tips on how to clean this essentially fucking glue, because it literally becomes like cement. It is virtually impossible to get off with just water and like a scrubbing brush. So I find the easiest way to get rid of it is pretty much literally to grab a box cutter and just like slice it off like this. I mean, the idea is this doesn't happen in the first place. If you feed it correctly with correct temperatures and whatever, it shouldn't explode. But I mean, look, I'm in Australia. In the afternoon, our apartment gets to like 30+ degrees Celsius. Even when I've literally sealed this thing completely, like 100% sealed it, I tend to leave it a little bit open now because I'm actually scared of the whole thing just fucking blowing up. But even in the past, when I've left it completely sealed, it still manages to get past the seal. And don't worry about breaking your glass. Unless your glass is made out of sugar or like balsa wood, you'll be fine. And now we're gonna feed the starter. So I just pour mine down the drain. I'm pretty sure that's not the best idea. Don't know where else to put it because the bin's almost always full. And then once you've got roughly ½ a cup, for me, I probably left about 1/4 of a cup. You're gonna wanna grab yourself some flour and some filtered water. If you're in a hot climate like me, as I said earlier, the best thing you can do is get cold filtered water. Grab yourself 1 cup of flour. You want roughly equal parts of water and flour. So I've got 155 grams of flour. You probably only need about half a cup, maybe a little bit more. There we go. And then next step being very straightforward, just mix it together. And now you can put that to the side. So on to the last stretch and fold. Woo! So
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
So you just do the exact same process. Stretch and fold. You're meant to do this for 30 seconds. I like to do it for more because, as I said, I actually enjoy it. All right, so now you're at this point. There'll be a nice little round dough ball in there. You're pretty much done in terms of what you're gonna need to do for tonight. So it's gonna stay overnight in the fridge. Yeah, so pretty much at this point, grab yourself some cling wrap, like so, place it over the bowl, and we're just gonna let it sit overnight in the fridge. Alrighty, so it's the next day. It's been a little bit more than 12 hours. All right, so I find so far what I can see different compared to, say, traditional yeast bread is that it rises significantly less than yeast bread, and it is also much more thick, I guess, but that could just be because I did a little bit of extra, what do they call it? Stretch and fold. And so you just want to flour your banneton like so. I think if you don't have a banneton, you can just use parchment paper in a bowl. Since it's a little bit higher moisture, better to have that than to just chuck it in the bowl straight away. You could even use oil so it doesn't stick as much. Then I'm gonna bring it out and chuck it straight. Wow, that is really sticky. I want to chuck it straight in the banneton. At this point, it is quite moist and it is sticking to my banneton, so realistically you should actually probably use parchment paper, but I didn't have access to any. I actually forgot to buy some. So we're just gonna leave it like this for half an hour. After half an hour, we'll start preheating our Dutch oven. I'll leave a link in the description to the Dutch oven that I use. It's pretty high quality for how cheap it was. It was only 140 Australian dollars, which for a Dutch oven of that quality is pretty damn good. It's been about half an hour. The dough's been rising. So what we want to do now is we want to grab ourselves our Dutch oven, chuck it into our oven, and we want to chuck it onto roughly 240 for like 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So this has been preheating at 240 for roughly 35 to 40 minutes. It is extraordinarily hot. And now we're on to the last stage. So what we're gonna wanna do is we'll grab our dough. I'll do this off camera, but you need to sprinkle it in flour on the top. Yeah, we're just gonna attempt to just flop it straight in. It's not really working all that well, but okay, this is a massive failure. Don't do what the fuck I'm doing. Okay, so ideally that doesn't happen and you actually get your dough in there successfully without having to reshape it and whatever. I'm sure you guys can make fun of me in the comment section. And we'll chuck it straight back in the oven. We'll put the lid back on and chuck it in the oven, and it'll be like that for half an hour with the lid on. And then after we'll do 15 minutes with it off. Alrighty, look at that. My first ever loaf of sourdough bread. I gotta say I'm quite happy with myself. I would have preferred if it rose a little bit more, which I know is almost certainly my fault, but yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. At this point, you're done your sourdough. You can see it looks quite nice. You can either just eat it by itself, which is one of my favorite ways to eat it because a lot of the time I can't be bothered doing anything with it. You can have some butter, which is also perfect, or you can dip it in olive oil. I've been to a few restaurants where they did this. I don't know if this is normal, like if it's an Italian thing or whatever, but I've had it before where they just serve olive oil with the bread. The other thing you can do is make what I like to call the cholesterol, which is just 2 different kinds of salami. I believe I use pure pork and some other Italian salami and some sheep cheese, like a pecorino or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I honestly don't remember exactly what it was. And I mean, look, it was as good as you could imagine it to be. And I mean, this isn't even scratching the surface as to what you can actually do with sourdough bread. It's literally almost limitless. So use your imagination. But yeah, that's it pretty much. And if you did enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Come and smell. It smells like sourdough.
Really? You're making sourdough and it smells like sourdough? What?
There's a hair in there. There's 2 hairs in there. What the fuck?
It's almost like, for example, when you cook fish, it has a fishy smell.
Why are you insulting me?